Picture a quiet evening in rural Georgia, where the air is thick with the scent of pine and the last rays of sunlight fade into dusk. A single bark cuts through the silence, sharp as a gunshot, echoing across a familiar park trail. Officer Megan Riley stops dead in her tracks, her heart pounding. Her K-09 partner, Diesel, a German shepherd with eyes like amber fire, lunges toward an ancient oak tree, its twisted branches looming like a sentinel in the twilight. His growl rumbles through the earth, urgent, desperate. Something is wrong, terribly wrong. Diesel's nose is locked on a hidden hollow in the tree, a secret buried in plain sight. What did he find? What darkness lies beneath the roots of this ordinary park? Stay with us for the next hour as we unravel a chilling true story of loyalty, bravery, and a dog who barked at death itself. This is K9 Miracle Stories, and you won't want to miss a single moment. The trail was nothing out of the ordinary, a winding path of packed gravel and soft dirt, cutting through a small park in rural Georgia. Joggers ran here in the mornings, their sneakers slapping rhythmically against the ground. Dog walkers let their pets sniff the grass, and kids on bikes zipped by, their laughter fading into the trees. For Officer Megan Riley, this trail was as familiar as her own heartbeat. She'd walked it countless times over her 12 years with the Athens Police Department, her boots crunching the same stones, her hand steady on the leash of her partner, Diesel. A 6-year veteran of the K-09 unit, Diesel was more than a dog, he was her shadow, her instinct, her trust made flesh. His dark fur gleamed in the evening light, and his ears flicked at every sound, a squirrel darting through the underbrush, a distant car horn, the rustle of leaves in the breeze. But tonight, something was different. It started with a bark, sharp, piercing, not like Diesel's usual alerts. Megan froze mid-step, her breath catching. Diesel's body went rigid, his tail stiff, his nose pressed to the ground as he tugged toward an ancient oak tree. Its trunk was gnarled, its roots sprawling like veins across the earth. The tree stood alone at the edge of the trail, older than the park itself, its branches casting long shadows in the fading light. Diesel's growl vibrated through the soles of Megan's boots, low and urgent, like a warning from somewhere deep within the earth. He circled the base of the tree, his paws scraping the dirt, his eyes locked on a specific spot, a hollow in the bark, barely visible unless you were looking for it. Megan knelt beside him, her hand brushing his fur. "What is it, boy?" she whispered, her voice steady but her pulse racing. Diesel didn't flinch. His nose was inches from the hollow, his body taut with focus. Megan's fingers grazed the edge of the bark. It was smooth, too smooth, not cracked or weathered like natural rot. It felt deliberate. Like someone had carved it, shaped it, hidden something inside. A chill crawled up her spine, sharp and cold. 12 years on the force had taught her to trust her gut, and right now, it was screaming. Something was buried here. Something someone didn't want found. She reached out, her fingers trembling slightly as they touched the hollow. The bark moved, a panel, loose but intentional, like a door to a secret no one was meant to open. Her heart thudded. She wanted to pull it back, to peer inside, but protocol stopped her. No warrant, no probable cause. Just a dog's instinct and a cop's hunch. She clipped Diesel's leash tighter and tugged gently. "Let's go, buddy. We'll come back tomorrow." Diesel resisted, his paws digging into the dirt, a low whine escaping his throat. His amber eyes flicked to her, pleading, as if saying, "Not yet." But Megan pulled harder, and he followed, reluctantly, his head turning back toward the tree with every step. They walked back to the squad car in silence, the park growing darker around them. Joggers passed by, oblivious, their earbuds blocking out the world. A couple with a golden retriever waved at Megan, their smiles easy, unaware of the weight settling in her chest. As she opened the cruiser door for Diesel, she realized her hand was shaking. She glanced back at the oak, now just a silhouette against the purple sky. It looked ordinary, but it wasn't. Not anymore. That night, Megan couldn't settle. She took a lukewarm shower, the water doing little to wash away the unease. Dinner was a microwave meal, untouched, sitting on the counter as she sat in her recliner, staring at the ceiling fan. Diesel lay at her feet, unusually restless. Every few minutes, his ears twitched toward the front door, his body tense, as if he expected someone, or something, to step out of the darkness. Megan picked up a paperback she'd bought at a gas station weeks ago, but the words blurred. Her mind kept drifting back to the oak, to the hollow, to Diesel's bark. It wasn't curiosity in his eyes. It was fear. She tossed the book aside and stood, pacing the small living room of her modest home. The clock ticked past midnight. Diesel lifted his head, watching her, his tail still. "What did you see, boy?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. He didn't answer, but his eyes held hers, steady and knowing. She crouched beside him, scratching behind his ears. "We'll figure it out. Tomorrow." But sleep didn't come. The house felt too quiet, the shadows too deep. The trail was nothing out of the ordinary. Megan was back at the park. A winding path of packed gravel and soft dirt, clinging low to the ground, a small park curling around the trees like a living thing. Joggers ran here in the mornings. She hadn't called for backup or slapping rhythmically against the ground. This was unofficial. Dog walkers let their pets sniff the grass, following a hunch that wouldn't let go. By. Their laughter fading into the trees. His steps sure, as if he'd memorized every inch of the trail was as familiar as her own heart. They reached the oak in under 3 minutes, times over her 12 years against the gray police department. Megan crouched, crunching the same flashlight cutting through the mist. Steady on the leash of her partner. The hollow was wider than she remembered. A 6-year veteran of the K-9 inviting her to look closer. Was more than a dog. She pushed it aside, her shadow, her breath catching, her trust made flesh. The beam of her flashlight revealed a stack of plastic containers, and his ears flicked at every sound, covered in a squirrel darting through the underbrush, a distant car horn. One had a rustle of masking tape on it. The ink faded, but something was different. March 2011. It started with a bark, Diesel whimpered, piercing, his nose not twitching, like Diesel's his usual body alerts. Pressed close to her side. Megan froze mid-step, Megan's heart breath catching. She knew Diesel's body went rigid, his tail stiff, his nose pressed to the ground as he tugged toward an ancient oak tree. She pulled out her radio and called it in, like her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. The tree stood alone at the edge of the trail, older than the park itself. I've got something at the branches casting long shadows in the fading light. Now, Diesel's growl vibrated the park through the soles of Megan's quiet, low and yellow tape like a warning from somewhere deep within the earth. Forensic techs moved with precision. He circled the base of the tree, gloved hands bagging evidence under the watchful eyes locked on a specific spot. Neighbors gathered beyond the tape, barely visible unless you were looking for it. Curiosity Megan knelt beside him, Diesel sat in the passenger seat of Megan's cruiser. Boy, his nose pressed to the window, her voice steady, watching the scene unfold. Diesel containers held more than anyone expected. Inches from the hollow. Photographs, his body taut with focus. Journal pages. Megan's fingers grazed the edge of the bark. Even old cassette tapes. It was smooth, too smooth. Each item was meticulously labeled, natural dated, rot. Cataloged felt with a precision that made Megan's someone had carved it, shaped it. A young officer named Cole approached her. A chill crawled up her spine, holding a clipboard. 12 years on the force had taught her to trust her gut, his voice tight. And right now, he handed her an evidence photo, something was buried, a black and white image of a teenage girl, pale, thin. She reached out, her eyes wide, fingers trembling slightly like as they touched something no one should. The bark moved, on the back, a panel, in sharp black but intentional, June 5th, like a door to a secret no one was meant to
Julia
open.
A. Athens,
her heart Georgia Megan's heart
She
dropped.
wanted to pull it back,
Julia
to
Anderson.
peer inside,
The
but
name was a wound in Georgia's memory.
No warrant,
a
no
15-year-old who vanished walking
just a dog's
home from
instinct
school.
and a cop's
her face
hunch.
plastered on
She
posters.
clipped Diesel's
her
leash
case
tighter
cold
and
for
tugged
over
gently.
a decade.
Let's go,
until
buddy.
now.
We'll come
Back
back
at the
tomorrow.
precinct,
Megan
Diesel sat
resisted,
across from
his
Detective
paws digging
Warren,
into the dirt,
a man
a
who'd
low
spent
whine
20
escaping
years
his throat.
chasing ghosts in
His
cold
amber
case
eyes
files.
flicked to her,
pleading.
He spread
as
out
if
more
saying,
photos on
"Not
the
yet."
table,
Each
but
one
Megan
a girl,
pulled harder,
each one
and he
linked to a
followed,
missing persons
reluctantly,
report.
his head turning
15
back toward
years,
the tree with
he
every
said,
step.
his voice
They
gravelly.
walked back to the squad
Most were
car in
ruled
silence,
runaways.
the park
A
growing
few stayed
darker
around them.
no leads.
Joggers passed
until
by,
your dog,
oblivious.
Their
Megan's
earbuds
fingers
blocking
traced
out the
the
world.
edges of the photos.
A couple with a
her
golden
eyes lingering
retriever
on the
waved
dates,
at Megan,
the names,
their smiles
the careful
easy,
handwriting.
unaware of the weight
This
settling
wasn't
in
a
her
random
chest.
collection.
As she opened
This
the
was a
cruiser
trophy
door for
room,
Diesel,
a record
she
of
realized
lives stolen
and
and
was
cataloged with pride.
She glanced back at
Diesel
the oak,
sat in
now
the
just a
hallway
silhouette
outside,
against the
his
purple
tail
sky.
wagging faintly
It
as
looked
officers
ordinary,
passed,
but it wasn't.
some pausing to
Not
offer
anymore.
a quick pat
That
or
night,
a nod of
Megan
gratitude.
couldn't settle.
Megan
She took
stepped
a
out to
lukewarm
check
shower,
on him, the water
crouching
doing
too
little
little
to
behind
wash
his
away the
ears.
unease.
You saved
Dinner
them,
was a
boy,
microwave
she
meal,
whispered,
untouched,
but
sitting
Diesel
on the
didn't
counter
relax.
as she sat in her recliner.
His eyes kept
staring
darting
at
to
the
the
evidence
ceiling
fan.
fan.
His body
Diesel
tense,
lay at her
as if
feet,
he knew there was
unusually
more
restless.
to find.
Every
The
few
lab
minutes,
smelled of
his ears
formaldehyde,
twitched toward
dust,
the front door,
and something
his body
darker,
tense, secrets
as if he
pulled from the
expected
earth
someone,
after too
or
long.
something, to step out of
17
the
containers
darkness.
lined a metal
Megan
table,
picked up a
each one
paper bag
labeled,
she'd bought
each
at
one
a
a
gas
piece of a
station
nightmare.
weeks ago.
But the
one
words
envelope
blurred.
caught Megan's
Her
eye,
mind kept
marked in
drifting
faded
back to
red
the
marker,
oak,
to the
property
hollow,
of
to
J.G.
Diesel's bark.
Do not destroy.
It wasn't curiosity in
She
his
slipped on
eyes.
gloves and
It
opened
was
it,
fear.
her breath shallow.
She tossed the book aside
Inside
and stood,
were Polaroids,
pacing the small
some
living
curled from
room of her
moisture,
modest home.
showing a basement
The clock
with
ticked
concrete
past
walls,
midnight.
chains
Diesel
bolted
lifted
to the
his
floor,
head, watching
a scratched
her,
radio
his tail
in the
still.
corner. What did
One
you see,
image made
boy?
her step
She
back.
asked,
A
her
teenage
voice
boy,
barely above
bound
a
to
whisper.
a chair, his eyes hollow, but his eyes held hers, hope, steady and knowing. The back read, she crouched beside him, scratching behind his ears. Megan's stomach churned. We'll figure it out. She handed the photo to Warren, but her voice barely steady. The house felt too just quiet, evidence. The shadows too deep. He was documenting everything. The investigation took a darker turn. Forensic analysis of a tape seal revealed a partial DNA match to Jack Galloway, a former state parks employee presumed dead after a boating accident on Lake Sinclair 10 years ago. No body had been recovered, only the boat, overturned and empty. Megan remembered the case, everyone in Georgia did. Galloway had been a local celebrity of sorts, a charming man who ran nature programs for kids, teaching them about trees and wildlife. His smile had been warm, his voice kind. Now, that memory felt like a lie. Either he faked his death, Megan said, her voice low, or someone's planting this to frame him. Warren nodded, his face grim. Either way, this isn't just a local case anymore. FBI's on the way. Special Agent Laura Finch arrived that afternoon, her dark suit crisp, her handshake firm. She didn't waste words. Galloway's name appears in 3 states, Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama. Always near parks, forests, or rivers. Always with a connection to missing persons. The photos, the journals, the tapes, they weren't just evidence. They were a killer's diary, a way to relive his control, his power. Diesel led them to another tree, this one smaller, tucked in a grove at the back of the park where joggers rarely went. His nose guided them to a rusted tin lunchbox buried beneath the roots. Inside, a woman's wallet with an expired license from 2009, a baby's sock, a cracked cell phone with a half-charged battery, and a leather-bound journal, damp but legible. Megan opened it, her hand steady despite the weight in her chest. The first page, in shaky handwriting, "I don't think I'm going to make it. He said if I screamed again, he'd cut my tongue out. If anyone finds this, tell my mom I'm sorry I went to the bus stop alone. Emily R." Emily Ree, 13, vanished on her way to summer camp in 2010. Her face had been on milk cartons, her parents' pleas on the evening news. Megan remembered the case vividly, the way it had haunted her early years on the force. She handed the journal to Finch, who read it in silence, her jaw tight. "Your dog's breaking open a wall of nightmares," she said. Diesel paced nearby, his ears twitching, his body alert. He wasn't done. Then came the tape. A forensic tech inserted a fresh battery into a cassette player, and a voice crackled to life, male, steady, chilling. "If you found this, you've dug too far. This isn't a confession. It's a legacy. Proof that no one sees the rot until the tree falls." Megan's arms tensed on the counter. It was Galloway, arrogant, untouchable. The room went silent as the tape ended, the weight of his words settling over everyone like a fog. That afternoon, a tip led them to a storage facility 15 minutes outside town. Unit 114, rented under Galloway's name, paid in cash years ago. The metal door groaned as it opened, revealing dusty furniture, Rubbermaid bins, a rolled-up tent. Diesel barked before they even stepped inside, his hackles raised. Megan unclipped his leash. He sniffed toward a set of shelves covered in a blue tarp. She pulled it back, revealing black duffel bags, each labeled with a year from 2004 to 2013. Finch unzipped one, 2006. Inside, clothing, photographs, a small child's shoe, and a notebook labeled subject number 5, Lake Route. Megan's throat tightened. This wasn't just a killer. This was a collector of pain, a man who kept souvenirs of stolen lives. Diesel grew restless. He stopped eating his usual kibble, whined when Megan left the house, pushed drawers open with his nose. His eyes locked on doors, windows, as if sensing something she couldn't. Megan trusted him. She took him to a remote trail near an abandoned power substation, where the air smelled of rust and overgrown kudzu. Diesel walked slowly, deliberately, sniffing every post, every tree. Then, a low growl. He stopped at a rusted utility pole, half swallowed by vines. Megan crouched, pushing the greenery aside. A hollow in the concrete base, covered by wood and moss. Inside, a shoebox wrapped in plastic. Her breath hitched as she opened it. A Girl Scout sash, a gold necklace with a heart-shaped locket, a cassette labeled subject number 9, confession. Back at the lab, the audio was distorted, but a girl's voice came through, tired, broken. "I told him I wouldn't scream. I didn't. I just want to go home." Then Galloway's voice, calm and cold, "You're part of something now. You're one of the special ones." Megan stepped out of the room, her stomach turning. She leaned against the hallway wall, Diesel pressing into her side, grounding her. Finch followed. "You okay?" Megan nodded, barely. "It's not just trophies. He's preserving their pain." The press caught wind of the case. News vans lined the precinct, headlines screaming, "K9 uncovers serial killer's vault. Retired ranger linked to decades of disappearances." Megan ignored them. A fingerprint from the cassette matched Layla Martin, missing since 2007. The FBI profiler's report painted a chilling picture. Galloway was confident, believed himself invisible, chose victims for emotional manipulation, revisited his hiding spots, saw the investigation as a personal challenge. Then, one night, Megan found a note on her windshield in red marker. "The dog always knew. Too bad you didn't." A shoe print in the dirt matched one from a hunting blind. Galloway had been at her house. Megan refused to back down. She stood before the evidence board, red string connecting pins, photos, and locations. A pattern emerged: girls aged 10 to 15, always near forests or rivers, always in small towns, always in summer. A closed ranger station near Toccoa Gorge caught her eye. Galloway had worked there in the 90s. 2 disappearances nearby, both unsolved. She turned to Finch. "I want to check that cabin." Finch raised an eyebrow. "Remote territory." Megan nodded. Exactly why he'd go back. Act 5, The Hunt in the Gorge, 40:01, 50:00. The road to Toccoa Gorge twisted through Georgia's northern mountains, flanked by towering pines and jagged rock. The air was thin, cold, even in summer. Megan gripped the wheel of the department SUV, Diesel beside her, nose twitching. Finch followed in an unmarked vehicle with 2 tactical units. No sirens, no lights. This was a hunt, and their prey was smoke, slipping through shadows. The ranger station was a ghost of itself, abandoned for 15 years, its porch sagging, windows boarded. Records showed Galloway's brief assignment here. 2 disappearances, a 14-year-old girl and a solo hiker, had been blamed on the wild terrain. Megan knew better now. They swept the cabin slowly, flashlights cutting through the gloom. The air smelled of mildew, ash, and something faintly sweet, like rotted fruit. Bootprints, fresh, led to a back closet. Megan signaled the agents, Diesel pressing close. She opened the door, not a closet, but a trap door to a stone-lined cellar, cold and musty, a bunker carved into the gorge. A cot, an oil lamp, a map pinned to the wall. Red X's marked dozens of locations across Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama, some circled, some crossed out, each labeled with a year or a name. Kill sites. One was circled twice, return 2025. Beneath the cot, photos, fresh ones. Megan walking Diesel, Megan at a gas station, Megan through her living room window. He'd been watching her for weeks. They secured the site, but Diesel barked again, sharp and alert, facing the tree lean. Megan saw it, a figure, tall, broad-shouldered, in a faded green jacket, moving fast. "Galloway," she shouted, unclipping Diesel's leash. "Find him!" The forest erupted. Diesel tore through the underbrush, Megan and agents behind. The figure wove through trees, leaping logs, always just out of reach. He slowed near a ridge, and Diesel leapt, tackling him to the ground. But it wasn't Galloway, a terrified transient, drugged, wearing Galloway's jacket. "He made me run," he whispered. "Said he'd kill me. A decoy. A trap." Back at the cabin, Diesel found a second tunnel, hidden behind a false panel. It led to a cavern packed with ID cards, jewelry, hair ties, a baby's blanket, a camera tripod with fresh dirt beneath it. Names were scratched on the wall, some crossed out, some waiting. Megan's name was there. So was Diesel's. This was his sanctuary, where he relived his crimes. The map's red circle haunted Megan, a hand-drawn tree by a river bend, marked twice, bold, intimate. 3 days later, they hiked in at dawn, Megan and Diesel leading, Finch and 2 agents behind. The trail curved along the river for a mile, then opened to a clearing with 3 tall poplars and a dead oak, its limbs brittle like claws. Diesel growled, his nose locked on the trunk. Megan found another panel, identical to the first oak. Inside, a lockbox with a letter, a cassette, a photo of Megan and Diesel from 2 weeks ago. The letter read, "Some trees don't fall. They rot standing up. You won't find me, but you'll find what matters. JG." Diesel barked, digging at the roots. Megan joined him, the team cutting through dirt and roots until they hit concrete, a vault, poured by hand. Megan pried it open, her heart pounding. Inside, a girl, filthy, dehydrated, barely conscious, wrapped in a blanket, gagged, wrists bound. Alive. "You're okay," Megan whispered, tears burning. "You're safe now." The girl, Haley Rhodes, 15, missing for 11 days, stared up, wild-eyed. Diesel's tail wagged once as medevac was called. Haley recovered in the hospital, her parents sobbing at her bedside. Galloway vanished, but his crimes didn't. The FBI declared him wanted for murder, abduction, and interstate crimes. Trail cams watched parks, tips flooded in, but he was gone. A month later, a package arrived at the precinct, no prints, no return address. A photo of Megan and Diesel, recent, and a note, "Some roots go deep. Deeper than you know. JG." Megan burned it, her resolve steel. A bronze plaque now stands at the first oak, dedicated to Diesel, K9 hero. He barked at what others could not see. 2024, forever on duty. Megan trains K9s now, passing on Diesel's instincts. He gave names back to the lost, saved lives, but the shadow of Galloway lingers. Thank you for joining us on this heart-wrenching journey with Megan and Diesel. Their story proves that heroes don't always wear badges, sometimes, they have fur and instincts we can't fathom. If Diesel's bravery moved you, subscribe to K9 Miracle Stories for more true tales of courage and loyalty. Hit that like button, share this story with friends, and let us know in the comments, do you think Jack Galloway is still out there, hiding in the shadows, or has justice found him in some other way? Your thoughts keep these stories alive. Stay with us for more miracles from our four-legged heroes.